This is my buddy Brian. I'm Richard. I tend to take things a little too serious, so goofing around is good for me. And this is Georgia, my better half. We hope you join us for our adventures and travels on Cabo. Last time we got underway and headed to the fuel dock at the Grenada Yacht Club. We motor sailed to get there before the fuel dock closed. We waited for our turn, only to be turned away before the posted closing hour. We spent the night on a mooring ball. The next morning, we were there an hour early and ended up waiting for about 3 hours, only to be told, no more fuel for you. Well, we left in haste and motor sailed to Tyrell Bay, Carriacou, and experienced problems with the port gearbox in that it would not shift into forward reliably. The 33.7 nautical mile trip to Tyrell Bay was met with a little rain, some wind, and no wind, hence the need to motor sail. We had to wait for our turn to get fuel as there were boats at the dock. When it was our turn, docking with an unreliable port engine was challenging. We were well received with first-class service from the staff at Carriacou Marine. Thank you very much. We had another lovely sunset and gentle weather in the evening for a good night's sleep before we set sail north. We got up early and we were off to Bequia. Our plan was to day sail north to Martinique, meaning that we would stop and anchor for the evening and leave again the next morning. This would provide that everyone got to sleep at night, we would avoid any night sailing, and this would make the passage easier. It felt good to have fuel in our tanks again. We had about 200 gallons, or about 750 liters. Running both engines at 5.5 knots would give us a range of over 500 miles. Operating at just over 5 knots, our range would increase to about 800 miles. Of course, we do run the generator at night for air conditioning, so that consumes some fuel and reduces our range a little. You can speak to the Admiral about that matter. The passage from Tyrell Bay to Bequia is 39.5 nautical miles. It took us 6 hours and 44 minutes, averaging about 6.5 knots under sail. The wind speed ranged from 14 to 23 knots, but was mostly around 17 to 18 knots. The day started out quite nice, steady winds that would allow us to sail and not motor sail. We had clear skies, and of course we are in the Caribbean, so it is warm and comfortable. We had been working hard in the yard, getting the boat ready, so it was super nice to relax at the helm and enjoy the downtime as we sailed. It took a lot of work to prepare for this voyage, so that everything would go well. And in spite of all that work, we still have a worn and broken clutch on the port engine. This is the cruising life. That is a cozy spot on the boat to just relax and enjoy the view. On Cabo, we have a Genoa and a square-top mainsail. A Genoa is typically 130% larger than a jib, and therefore provides more surface area and more power to move the boat along through the water. The square-top mainsail also has more surface area than a traditional mainsail, and again offers more power to move the boat through the water. We are quite happy with the performance of our Lagoon 450S. Once we got to Bequia, we anchored in the south part of the bay, as other areas had many boats. The south part of the bay is known for poor holding, so after we dropped the anchor, I dove the anchor to make sure it was properly set. It took a couple of attempts before I was satisfied that we would stay put for the night. With all this talk of nautical miles and knots, the non-sailor types might be wondering, so what is a nautical mile or a knot? 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet or 1.6 kilometers. A nautical mile is 6,076.1 feet, which takes the curvature of the Earth into account. A nautical mile is also equal to 1 minute of latitude. Given that there are 60 minutes in 1 degree of latitude, 1 degree of latitude is equal to 60 nautical miles. A knot is the rate of speed over 1 nautical mile. 1 knot is equal to 1.15 miles per hour, so 5 knots is 5.75 miles per hour, 7 knots is 8 miles per hour, 9 knots is 10 miles per hour. So when you are stuck in traffic and it's creeping along at 5 to 10 miles an hour, just think, you are traveling at sailing speeds, so enjoy the voyage. We have an early morning sunrise as we depart for St. Lucia. This outdoor research hat does not have the brim stitched to itself and expands as you can see in the video. Even with the chin strap, it's a disaster. I fixed the issue by stitching the brim around the base of the hat. Here we go. We are leaving Bequia and we're heading for St. Lucia. 6:12. We've been at this for an hour already. Ryan and I are hanging out at the helm, just chatting. It decided to rain on my nice morning, so the crew went inside and I stayed at the helm and stood watch. It's blowing pretty good. You can see the water blowing over the port bow on the left. And it's getting a little rougher, so both bows. Brian found a good place to stand when it's raining outside. And I'm trying to stay dry. We had a great sail, but the weather behind us looked quite ominous. Our goal was to get to the Pitons in St. Lucia, which is about 50 nautical miles away. This is one of our longer passages, and naps are in order. We made good time sailing to the Pitons. It looked like the bad weather system was behind us, but seemed to be moving in our direction. This matched the forecast, so we made the call to continue sailing on to Rodney Bay, which was another 20 nautical miles away. Once we were in the lee of St. Lucia, the wind died, and we lost our boat speed, so we and others motor sailed. As we continued on to Rodney Bay, there were several boats making the passage both north and south, many of which did not have AIS. The total trip from Bequia to Rodney Bay, St. Lucia was 70 nautical miles and took us almost 11 hours, averaging about 6.5 knots. We arrived in Rodney Bay just before dark. It was raining and the wind was starting to blow again. We tried to set the anchor and we dragged, so we made another attempt. I didn't pull back as hard on the throttles and it seemed to set okay. I dove the anchor to check and it was well set. We settled in for the evening and the weather system passed and we had a very nice and calm evening. The blue light is solar powered. It is not uncommon for small vessels to not see a boat at night, as the anchor light is 75 feet above the level of the water on top of the mast. I put these 4 blue lights on each corner of the boat as a preventative measure to assist small craft to be able to see us at night and hopefully not crash into us. When there is no ambient light or moonlight, it can be pitch black out on the water and hard to see a boat at anchor. We got another early start and had favorable winds to sail. However, the weather in front of us did not look friendly. We were going to get wet. I think rain was going to be the theme for the day. When the weather is nice, hanging out at the helm is a great place to be. We had the company of hundreds of seabirds who were looking for breakfast. We saw lots of flying fish scampering away from our boat, and the birds made many dive-bombing attempts in search of breakfast. It's all very entertaining, and I'm very grateful that I am not a part of the food chain. We have a B&G chart plotter at the helm. Inside we use Time Zero, a very powerful navigation software that lives on the iPad and is connected to the GPS through the B&G Wi-Fi signal. It is easy to use and tracks where we went, how fast, and records other navigation data. As you can see, it's a bit rolly, and it's about to get worse. We were not far from Martinique when the weather system sat on us. Our visibility went from good to almost zero. The wind picked up and it rained really hard. We had a reef in the main, and fortunately it let up before we got to the entrance of the bay. Our passage to Marin was 29.3 nautical miles. It took 5 hours and we averaged 7.8 knots. I was a bit nervous as we are going to tie up stern to the dock, or a med mooring as they call it. This puts us between 2 other boats. With now a crippled port engine, if the wind kicked up in the Marina, things could go bad quite quickly. We were about to find out. This would be my first time performing a stern tie or med mooring. We entered the Marina after our passage, and fortunately, the wind had died down and it was calm. I thought I had filmed the entire sequence when we were docking, but apparently not. Apologies for the missing video, but it might be better that the video didn't take. We approached the slip, there is a little wind, and I positioned Cabo to back into the slip. Remember, the port engine does not shift into forward reliably. I am beginning to back in, and for the moment everything is going well. The next moment the wind kicks up, and I am pushed to the left. The port engine won't shift into forward. I am going to hit the boat on my left. Oh boy. Okay, new plan. Port reverse, starboard forward, and I spin the boat around and take the bow to the dock. Not ideal, but I didn't hit anything and we are now secure. At this point, people have come out to assist us, which was wonderful by the way. We are in Marin, Martinique, which means everyone speaks French. So we are getting lots of support and guidance in French, but I understand almost nothing. Our neighbor gives us permission to use her boat to get off ours and onto the dock. After a bit of conversation in French and broken English, I come to understand that I need to call the Marina on the radio. They can provide assistance. I call them and they send a man over in a dinghy to help. But he says it's too windy now and he'll come back at 4 p.m. It's about 11 a.m. Okay, we will wait. What else can we do? Moments later, the wind dies and he is back saying, let's do it now. Okay, we are going to back the boat out of the slip, spin her around. I'm not exactly clear as to what is happening, but I go with the flow. He has a line from one of my bows to his dinghy, and as I pull out, he spins me around. I see what he is doing, and I use my engines to assist, and moments later we are stern to in the slip. Now we need to attach the bow lines to the mooring balls. There was a bunch of conversation, but nothing is happening, so I jumped in the water, swam over to the mooring balls with the line, and tied off the bows. I swam back to the boat, and we secured all the lines and adjusted all the fenders to keep us from hitting the dock and our neighbors. Our neighbors were great in providing guidance and actual support during this stressful process, and fortunately we got tied up properly without any damage. That's all for now. Come back next time as our 3 planned days in Martinique turn into 13. Thanks for watching.